Hi, everyone. I am Jessie on Nichols George. I go by On, and I am the author of The Code Journey, a daily guide to maneuvering life on Earth. So you may have heard about that book. It's a great tool for working your way through life in general. And every year, a new edition of that is put out. I've also authored some other books, Activating Compassion, then also You, Me, Life Dreams, and been part of a few other projects as well. But the code journey is the main work that I do. But what most people don't realize is that I also have additional services that I offer. And one of those services is a life report. Now, the life report is about a 5 to 10 page report that I compile for somebody. And I work with their own individual information. So I work with what your full legal name is. And then if you have a different uh, birth name, I work with that birth name as well. So I get that information from you. And I work through a special process, which is called coding interpretation. And that's kind of a unique thing I've developed, which is an integration of over 50 different modalities, practices, belief systems. And you can certainly check out more about that work in my other promotional videos. But with this particular report, what we're looking at is those energetic currents that we are born into. So I will actually look at what you are born into, what you're living under, what those patterns are like, maybe how that your current patterns are interacting with your birth patterns, things like that. And in this life report, there's three main components to the life report piece or to understanding yourself. And what this does is you're really delving into deeper layers of yourself. You're getting better understanding now. Granted, we all understand how we function to a certain extent, but we don't always understand some of the components behind that. Like, why do I have a tendency to be angry? Why do I have a tendency to fall into being deceived by other people? These sorts of things. And so as we understand if those energy patterns are current or a part of our life, then we can start to deal with that. Then we can start to become proactive in that process and really understand the gifts. Because sometimes when you're dealing with some of these currents, it might not feel like much of a gift in your life. It's like, hey, can I get some different influences here? you know, I think I want a different life pattern. Well, unfortunately, we can't change out the patterns that we're born into, but we can learn to deal with them. And that is the key with this report, is it helps us to understand ourselves on deeper levels and then how to deal with those influences. So when I look at this, there's actually four main components to the life report. You have your outer world influences, and your outer world influences are those components that are your general social life. They're your working life, how you interact with the world at large, just the general socialization of people that aren't necessarily close to you, but you may have a lot of interaction with, like your coworkers, your business environment. There's, of course, other things that influence that as well. But it helps you to know just in general how you're going to interact with public at large out in the world. Then you have your inner circle or your inter influences, and these are your more intimate flow, your more intimate world. So maybe your super close friends, your besties out there, but more so your personal relationships in life. So your love relationships, your connections, your partnerships, the people who are really important, like a spouse or, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, whatever, life partner in there. And this tells you how you function in a relationship. And this is one of the interesting things, because when we deal with some of the individual modalities, they don't always get into some of these more individualized pieces. It's kind of like, well, you're a Scorpio, so you're a Scorpio, so you're a Scorpio, and well, you're a Scorpio. And it's like, oh, okay, so I'm a Scorpio, I guess. And they don't account for the fact that we can be very different people in our general world influences or our business environment than we are when we go home and we're behind closed doors. And could be a very different person. We could be very extroverted and team oriented out in the world. And then we could come home, we could be very introverted and, dealing with something completely different, confident in the outer world and, abused in the inner world. And so these reports actually help to shed some light. They shed some light on these currents that we're dealing with. And then the third component we have in there is our bloodline energy. And our bloodline energy deals with our family patterns. So again, you're not going to get out of those. You're born into them. You chose this family. And that shows us where some of our potential lies. It shows us where our challenges lies. And of course, with all of these things, some things will be more favorable than other things in energetic patterns, but ultimately it's about how do we deal with them, because you could have a very favorable pattern in a part of your life or your overall currents, and you may not be working with them, therefore you might not be experiencing those favorable things. Likewise, you could have some very challenging things in your life, and if you have some very challenging energetics and you are dealing well with those energetics, then they're not going to be very destructive in your life because you're understanding how to deal with them, right? It's just like understanding a child who maybe has certain physical challenges or learning disabilities or things like that. And you have to approach them a different way than other children. So it's the same kind of concept in there. And when we talk about our bloodline energy, that means that likely we're dealing with people who are on both ends of the spectrum, right? You might have somebody who's very spiritually based, but also somebody who's very materialistic based, all from the same energy pattern, because they're just two different ends of the spectrum that are in there. And then we have our overall pattern. So how all three of those come together and what energy pattern is created from the three of those. So what's the benefit of doing this, right? We might be wondering, well, yeah, but don't I know myself? Yes, you do know yourself. But this opens you on a deeper level. This allows you to really harness who you are in this factor. This report is really valuable, I find, also for parents who want to understand how their kids function. I mean, I can't tell you how many parents say, I just wish I understood my child better. I just wish I understood. And we have these dynamics, right, of how we interact, how we function in the world versus how they function in the world. But when we start to understand, so like a life report on a partner, a life report on a child, on a spouse, any of these things, it gives us more understanding to how they function in the world. And if we have that understanding of how they function in the world, then we can create stronger connections with them, because we better understand what they need. We better understand what's going to irritate them. We better understand why they act one way when we're out at, a social gathering with people, and why they act completely different when they're with us. And, how many people have been in that, feeling of I'm in a Jekyll and Hyde relationship, in there. So the more we can understand these life patterns, the more we can harness our energy in life. This is also something that we can use as a launching point to understand, and I can work with people to help them understand and to open up the components of what they want to do. So maybe they have an idea, like most of my life, right? I've had an idea. I want to help people in some way. I want to be a positive influence in their life in some way. And yet that has shifted and changed along the way. Obviously, as I've grown, as I've matured, as I've learned more, things like that. Well, with the life report, we can take a look and say, do you have a natural propensity for that? Or maybe if you want to help people, it will come through maybe working with abused people as opposed to working with entrepreneurs or being a teacher. Or maybe it'll work with this. And I can't tell you how many times when I've run a life report on somebody and they've come back and said, oh, I've always wanted to do something like that. I've always wanted to be in that area, or I actually ended up going to college for that, or this was really my passion and I had to let it go. And it brings them kind of in this full circle moment to realize that, hey, yeah, maybe I was on track with something. But again, learning how to harness it maybe a little more focused. It might give some refinement to what we already know about ourselves, or some deeper layers to what we think we want to do, and maybe help us focus in a little bit more. Also, through the life report, things that I can look at is, again, this understanding of what is manifesting in life. So if you have a health issue that arises in life, if you have a challenge that you're dealing with in life, or triggers that are coming up for you in life, or even things that bring you joy, whatever it is that you want to look at, to a sense, the life report can help us to understand that better. It can understand how to, again, harness that flow that is naturally you in there, because so many times people try to do something because they think, oh, well, it would be a really good thing to be a coach. It would be a really good thing to be a teacher, or a really good thing to be a doctor, but they may not be totally in it. And just because something's a good thing doesn't always mean that it's your thing to do. And I think that is a big key, but we can look at these different things. So with that life report, we know whether you have a propensity to be sick a lot. We know whether you have to deal with hard challenges or not. And then from there, we can work and take a look, and you can start to unfold. Okay, I get it. If this is going to be with me for life, this doesn't have to be a curse in my life. It can be a blessing. And let's look at how we turn that into a blessing. I had a friend, and she always thought that dealing with lies and deception and manipulative people all of her life was this curse on her life, until she realized that she had a gift. And that gift was that the truth can never hide from her. And how beautiful that was, and how important that was, because nobody could pull anything over on her anymore. And once she learned to harness this gift, she stopped being angry at her life. She stopped being in a point of being resentful in life. So we have a pretty unlimited thing. And again, imagine if you understood how your spouse worked, or your children work, how they function, how much better of a parent or a partner can you be? How much more present can you be for them? How much more supportive can you be for them without stressing yourself out in that process? So these are really cool dynamics to delve into, and I hope you'll explore this further. Reach out to me. My email is Jang, Jang, that's my initials, at compassioncodes.com, or you can go onto the website, contact me through there, compassioncodes.com, or you can reach out to me through social media and just send me a message in there. And if you want to learn more about what the coding work is about, I have videos on that as well. Take care.